Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves for a brand new match preview. Hope you guys are keeping well. Wolves returning to action tomorrow as we host Everton at Molineux, the final game of 2023. And what a roller coaster it has been, for lots of different reasons. But in the comment section, I want you guys, obviously, to let me know your score prediction, but let me know your favourite moment. Favourite Wolves moment of 2023, so that could even span back to last year as well. But it's been a good solid start to the season for Wolves. This is officially the second half of the season now. We've played our first 19. This is our second 19 games, and of course the reverse fixture now against Everton, who we did beat right at the start of the season. If you remember, it was a late goal by Sasha Kalajdzic, but I'm looking forward to it, guys. I'm away at the moment, as you can see, but travelling back down tomorrow for the game and then coming back here again afterwards. So I'm hoping my trip is worthwhile. Lots of, obviously, different team news to go through because of different situations, which I'll speak about shortly. But looking at Everton, of course, I've done a couple of previews with Everton fans, and very interesting situation that they found themselves in this year with the point deduction and so on. But I think they've done quite well, really, in regards to how they've reacted to that on the pitch and the way Sean Dyche has got them playing. Without that 10-point deduction, they would have been just ahead of Wolves in the league, and they've been okay away from home. The only concern I've got coming into this game is in regards to how they play and how Wolves will react to that, because Everton are a team that allow the other team, the opposition, to have a lot of the ball. They do like to can sit quite deep, and Wolves this season haven't tended to do too well against teams that allow us to have a lot of the ball. We tend to play quite well on the counter-attack and so on. So we look at, I used the Forest game earlier on this season as an example, as my dog wants to get involved in the match preview, obviously. And of course, we picked up a point from that game against Forest, but I think they made life very, very difficult for us in that. And when we have a lot of the ball at times, we don't quite know what to do with it. So hopefully that's something that can change, and they surprise us towards the end of for the end of the year. And the festive period for Wolves has been extremely good. Wins against Chelsea, emphatic win against Brentford as well, and it's put us in a really nice position in the league. If we could top that off now with another 3 points, that would put Wolves in a fantastic position. Now, team news is obviously one that is a little bit of a concern, but there is some good news. Hwang Hee-chan, who came off injured against Brentford, is fully fit. Gary O'Neill has said he's available. Craig Dawson as well is fully fit and available. The one doubt for tomorrow's game, though, is Mario Lemina. Arguably, for me, the man of the match for the last 2 games. He's been phenomenal, but there has been issues personally for him. I believe his father is ill at the moment, so he was seen at an airport this morning travelling. He said it's for private reasons. It sounds like he may be travelling to see his father, and obviously I hope everything goes well on that front. But Gary O'Neill hasn't completely ruled him out, but he says he is a doubt for tomorrow's game, which of course it will be a massive loss for Wolves. But at the end of the day, family is a lot more important. So, I completely understand Mario's reasonings for travelling away. And of course, from a Wolves point of view, I really hope he is available, but I want to make sure personally everything is fine for him as well. So, saying that, this is my predicted lineup for tomorrow's game. Now, it's quite a difficult one to predict. I think you may think I'm being a little bit harsh on certain players here as well. But I would say it's possibly going to be in goal, obviously, Jose Sarr once again. Ryan Aït-Nouri left wing back. Back 3, I would say it's going to be Kilman. I think Dawson will come back in. I do feel a little bit for Santiago Bueno, but I think Dawson will come back in. And, of course, Totti and Nelson Semedo. Midfield 2, I think João Gomez for sure will keep his place. Then probably Boubacar Traoré. Gary O'Neill again said he trained this week. So if Lemina is not available, I think it'll be Boubacar Traoré. Just not 100% sure on Tommy Doyle. I think the physicality Everton will bring centrally is something that Wolves will need to look at. And then the front 3 unchanged. Hwang, Matheus Cunha and Pablo Sarabia. Sarabia really stepping up now, adding that creativity. And I think if Wolves have a lot of the ball tomorrow, he'll be able to obviously make an impact on that front as well. But do let me know your thoughts on the selection, guys, because there's lots of players, that probably do deserve to get a start. Of course, Neto, I think, will be on the bench as well, and hopefully we see him get some minutes as well. But I spoke to yesterday, Ellis from the A Game 2 Halves podcast. He's an Everton fan, to give his thoughts ahead of this match. So then, guys, for this week's away perspective, I'm delighted to be alongside Ellis from A Game of 2 Halves podcast. Big Everton fan. Ellis, thanks for joining us again on Talking Wolves. How you keeping, man?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, good, thank you. Very good for us. We're our last 2 games, so we're getting a little bit of momentum now. But it's been a very interesting season for Everton. I was going to say sort of productive, but it probably hasn't been. But I mean, in terms of results, you're in an okay position, considering what's happened to you guys. Obviously, this is officially the start of the second half of the season. This is our 20th game, and a lot has changed for both sides since we last met. Obviously, Wolves in the end beating you with a pretty late goal at Goodison Park. But I mean, talk us through that game, not the game, the season so far for Everton. I mean, since we've last met, a 10-point deduction, which I'm sure a lot of Everton fans are really disappointed and frustrated about. But I mean, you've got to be pleased with the reaction from the squad and how Sean Dyche has got the team getting points on the board.
Well, yeah, like you say, so much has changed since that game at Goodison on, I think it was the second game of the season, was it, against you
Yeah,
guys?
early
And
doors. Yeah,
yeah, it was early days in the season, and it was one of those games where we played so well, and it seemed to be a common theme at the start of the season. We created a ton of chances, and then
yeah.
you guys got that one goal in the second half. Sasa Kalajic put it away, and then nicked the win. So I'm hoping we can somehow reverse that this weekend. But it has been a tumultuous season for Everton. Everything has been going on. The points deduction massively hit us and plunged us into a relegation battle that we didn't really deserve to be in, and we're in it. That's the reality, and we've been fantastic, to be honest, since then, but also in the signs leading up to that, maybe 4 games before, the form really changed, and we're starting to look like a team who will compete in every single game. We've had a tough week. We lost to Spurs and Manchester City, but two very good teams, of course. But on the road, we've been fantastic. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we do.
Yeah, I mean that was a difficulty for Wolves away games. Obviously, we beat Brentford this week quite convincingly, and that was our first away win in a while. But on the flip side of that, we've been very good at home. So I mean, if you're saying your away form's quite good, I think it'll be an interesting battle going into Saturday's game. It's an interesting one, Ellis. Obviously, Everton on paper at the moment are 17th with 16 points, but if you take away that point deduction, they would be bang on mid-table, ahead just ahead of Wolves by a point. They'd be in 10th place. So considering that, I think it has been a good season so far for Everton. And I think a lot of people have mentioned it, and not really in a disrespectful way to Everton, but it's quite a good season for the point deduction to happen because there are some very weak sides in the Premier League so far this season. But what are your thoughts on Sean Dyche? Have things changed? Has your opinion changed on him since the start of the season? What's his quality of football been like? And sort of around the Everton fan base, what's their stance on him at the moment?
Well, I've always been for him from the start, really. We needed someone to steady the ship at the time. I'm sure I said to you last time we spoke, we
Yeah.
needed someone to come in, get results, and just it doesn't matter how we play as long as we do get the results. And that's even more important now with the points deduction. But I think there's a big myth around Sean Dyche. People expect the football to be horrible and awful to watch, but it really hasn't been that way. And he's won over a lot of Evertonians this season now. And it's got to a point where I quite enjoy watching us. We're direct. We try and get the ball from one end to the other as quick as possible. And
Yeah.
I quite like that. We create a lot of chances in games. And of course, going to Wolves, you guys have scored in, I think, 16 consecutive home games now. So our whole away template would be keeping teams out and hopefully nicking one. So I'm a bit worried about that. But Sean Dyche has been fantastic for us. He really is the man we needed to take us through this tough time as well. He always has a level head. When we got hit with the points deduction, he kept everyone calm. And you could see that in the players' reactions as well. It hasn't emotionally affected them like we thought it might. And I
Mm.
think a lot of credit goes to Sean Dyche for that. He set us up now in a way where the players give absolutely everything in every game. We look organised defensively, strong from set pieces, and we're starting to look like a threat on the counter attack now as well, especially away from home. As an Evertonian, I'm used to not winning many away games at all in a season, and we've won loads already this season. It's been brilliant. So I'd love to have one more this year against Wolves. I'm sure you wouldn't want that though.
No, I mean, it's interesting you say about that. I think teams towards the bottom half of the table, and I think Wolves would be included away from home. They do tend to sit a little bit deeper and try and frustrate opposition, whereas Wolves haven't liked playing against teams that play like that this season. I think we've liked to play against teams with a higher line that get at us, and that's happened the last 2 games. Chelsea obviously came to Molineux but tried to attack, and we beat them on the counter. Brentford again the same this week, although they made their own mistakes. They still tried to attack us. It allowed Wolves a lot of space. We've played teams. We beat Burnley. We drew to Nottingham Forest. We have dropped points this season against teams that like to play in the way that you've described. So it could be a long afternoon for Wolves if Everton do sit deep and try and frustrate Wolves. But I'm with you on that style of play. Sometimes I know it's lovely to see nice passing passages of play, but sometimes if you can win a game with a direct ball over the top of the defense, or piling pressure on centre halves, it's great. And that's Wolves really struggled against you guys last time in getting that ball into the area. And I think it was Neto actually pushing up the pitch, whipping the ball into the air, and ultimately that's what won us the game, really. Ellis, in terms of the players at Everton at the moment, who I know you've had one or two injury issues. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's one that's always struggled maybe to keep his fitness and so on. But is there any players that are really, coming into form that Wolves need to be worried about going into Saturday's game?
Well, you mentioned the Brentford game there, and a lot of your goals came from defensive mistakes from Brentford
Correct, yeah.
trying to play it out. You obviously had a helping hand from Nathan Collins, your former player, and I think that's something you won't get with Everton. We're not going to be playing it out from the back. When we get hold of it, I think we'll try and get it forward quickly. And when we say direct as a style for Everton, that doesn't necessarily mean long balls every time. It's
Yeah.
just a case of getting to the other end of the pitch as quick as we can, and that's what we'll do. So the key players in that will be Jack Harrison, Dwight McNeil, two players who are going to press really high, try and win the ball back as high as possible. I think we're third in the league for high turnovers, and we get goals from it as well. We got one against Manchester City. Obviously, Rodri got caught in possession. We go and score from that. So it shows we can do it against the best as well. And those two players will be really key for us. Of course, at the back, Jared Branthwaite, James Tarkowski have got a really secure partnership now there. So I believe in them that they can keep you guys out. Hopefully, they can be the first team in 16 games to do so. But up front, you mentioned Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's a toss-up between who's going to start there because Calvert-Lewin's played a lot of games recently. He's on his longest run without being injured for a long time. So I hope I've not just jinxed that. But Beto did start against Manchester City and he put a real shift in. But I don't know if maybe he was played so Dom can play on Saturday. But
Yeah.
what the decision over what striker to play is an interesting one because Beto obviously offers you a lot in terms of his power, his unpredictability. But Dom is that guarantee that he will hold the ball up for you and he will bring others into play. So who that is up front is important too. But I think we've got players who can hurt you. We're going to miss Abdoulaye Doucouré, absolutely. He's touch and go for the game, and he's probably one of the main reasons we've won so many on the road, just because he's always in the right place and he sets the press. So he's probably the biggest miss in terms of team news.
Yeah, Wolves historically have struggled against quite a physical midfielder, and I think Doucouré has probably been one of those players over the years. For the different setups he's played in. Who do you think will start century then for Everton on Saturday?
It's a tough one, really. It could be 4 at the back, it could be 5 at the back, which would then dictate what happens in the midfield. Amadou Onana's a cert, I think. He was a bit injured against Man City, but a very good player, like you say. James Garner will definitely play. And then it's that third midfielder. What will happen there, I really don't know, because if we play 5 at the back, you might see 5, then 2 midfielders sitting, and then Harrison, McNeil, and Dom. Or you may see 4 at the back, and Andre Gomez comes into it, which for me would be a huge risk. He'd be playing his third game in a week. The lad hadn't played for Everton for 2 years before that. He played for Lille on loan, but he hadn't played for Everton in 2 years. We'd forgot he still played for us. And he's put in 2 really good shifts lately, but can he play 3 in a week? I don't know. So I'd imagine they'll go with 5. So you rest Andre Gomez and then play Onana and Garner because it's going to be a tough battle. Obviously, Mario Lemina has been fantastic for you this season. You did lose Ruben Neves, but it seems like João Gomez and Mario Lemina are really putting in a shift to kind of cover for what you've lost from Neves. And they're just the battlers, aren't they? So it'll be very interesting to see 2 battlers that you've got against our 2 who are just the same. They are like workhorses and hopefully can come out on top, but it'll be a real battle.
Yeah, we mentioned that on our podcast this week as well. It's Neves, and I mentioned it on my reaction after the Brentford game. Neves obviously a huge miss. It's technically a phenomenal player, but I think Lemina makes up that gap in his physicality, the way he can drive the ball forward, the way he wins the ball, and I think that's what's almost given us the edge. Wolves have missed that ever since we've come back into the Premier League. We've always had Moutinho and Neves, and as brilliant as they are as footballers, they've never really had that physical edge to the game. So we're going from one extreme to the other now with Gomez and Lemina. He's obviously great to watch as well. Are there any Wolves players that worry you, Ellis, other than those few that we've just mentioned there? Any Wolves players worry you going into Saturday's game?
Well, of course, I saw the performance from Hwang Hee-chan against Brentford, but getting subbed off, that was a bit of a worry for you guys. I think I saw the talk afterwards. It seems like he may still feature against Everton. I don't know whether he will or not, but the goals that he scored, I saw as well, it's 10 goals from 11 shots on target. So
correct, yeah.
Conversion rate is just incredible. And he offers so much in behind. And that's where you're going to catch Everton. If you're going to get us, then it'll be a case of quick players getting through against our defense who aren't quite as quick as other defenses, for example, but they are very organized. But if you break the lines, Hwang Hee-chan is a real threat. So he's the obvious one for me. Lamina, though, in goal scoring form as well and playing really well. Obviously, a good player. And I think something I noticed against Chelsea for you guys, you were able to sub off both fullbacks and bring on two fullbacks. And when you're playing five at the back, that's so important to have
Yeah.
that energy even throughout the game as it gets to the latter stages. And I don't think we'll be able to do that. We haven't quite got the depth, and the squad's really stretched at the minute. And there's been so many games, like so I think that'll be a key thing for you as well.
Yeah, and I think we may well see the reintroduction of Pedro Neto. Doubt it'll be from the start. He was on the bench yesterday against Brentford, but
Great.
yeah, I'd assume he'll get some minutes, which obviously will be a big boost for us as well. But Ellis, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good game. Everton, no pushovers this season. They've given even Man City. I think they capitalised on an error or two from you guys, and ultimately you can't do that against City. But you've picked up some great results, so it'll be an interesting game. Could I have a score prediction? What you thinking?
I'm going to be positive. I'm going to back us. Hopefully, we can have one more win this year
Yeah.
because it's been a very difficult year for the club, and it'd be nice to end it on a high. So I'm going to go with 2-1. I'm going to back us.
Yeah, no, it'll be a close game, mate. Fingers crossed. Obviously, best of luck for the rest of the season after Saturday as well. I can say that
You
now
too,
because
mate.
we're not going to have a reverse fixture, and I'm sure you guys are more than strong enough to stay up. So obviously, fingers crossed you do. So before we finish off, though, where can people find you and your podcast, Ellis, if they wish?
Yeah, so it's a game of two halves at two halves LSR on Twitter, and then it's at Ellis Nordoff on Twitter for myself. But thanks for having me on, mate.
No problem. I'll make sure I leave a link to those in the description down below, mate, and I'll catch you next season. Hopefully, speak soon.
See you, mate. Thank you.
So big thanks to Ellis. I'll make sure I leave a link to his podcast and Twitter page in the comments in the description down below. Sorry, and my dog. I'm not sure what my dog's doing up there, but yeah, guys, I'm hedging towards a 2-1 Wolves win. I think it'll be a close game. I think both teams will score. That midfield battle is key for us. I think Mario Lemina will be a big miss if he's not available, but we'll wait and see how we can get on. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Like I said earlier on, favourite Wolves moment of 2023, your score prediction ahead of this game. Happy New Year to you all. If this is the last video you watch before then, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.